Stop chasing her because every message you send is pushing her further away. If she's ignoring you, you're already losing, but what I'm about to show you will flip the power completely. Stay with me. Listen, let me talk to you for a second. A lot of men get this wrong. A woman ignores you and suddenly you panic. You start texting more, calling more, chasing harder, thinking if you just try enough, she'll come back. But let me tell you something real, that's exactly how you lose. Because when a woman ignores you, it's not always about you. Sometimes it's a test, sometimes it's power, and sometimes she just wants to see how much control she has over your emotions. Never chase attention, because the moment you start chasing, you start losing control of your value. When a woman ignores you, your first instinct might be to do more, send another message, double text, try to be funnier, more interesting, more available. You think effort will fix the silence, but in reality, all it does is communicate one thing. You need her attention more than she needs yours. And the moment that imbalance shows up, attraction begins to fade. See, attention is powerful, but only when it's given freely. The more you try to force it, the less valuable it becomes. It's like anything in life, what's easily available is rarely appreciated. When you are constantly reaching out, constantly checking in, constantly trying to pull her back in, you remove the mystery, the space, and the challenge. You make yourself predictable. And predictability in situations like this doesn't build attraction, it slowly kills it. Restraint, on the other hand, is where real strength lies. It takes discipline to not react. It takes confidence to sit back and say, if she wants to talk to me, she will. That kind of mindset shows that your world doesn't revolve around her response. It shows that you have standards, that you value your time, and that you're not willing to beg for something that should come naturally. And that's what separates a man who is respected from a man who is overlooked. When you stop chasing, something interesting happens. The energy shifts. Instead of you wondering why she's distant, she starts wondering why you're not reacting. Your silence creates space for her curiosity to grow. She begins to question your absence, your calmness, your ability to walk away without making a scene. And in that moment, your value rises not because you did more, but because you chose to do less. But this only works if it's real. You can't fake restraint while secretly obsessing over her every move. You have to genuinely redirect your focus back to your own life. Put that energy into your goals, your work, your physical health, your mindset. Build something that fulfills you beyond her attention. Because when your life is full, you don't feel the need to chase anyone. You naturally become someone people want to chase, control your emotions, and you control the situation. Because the moment your feelings start driving your actions, you give away your power. When a woman ignores you, it can trigger frustration, confusion, even insecurity. Your mind starts racing with questions. Did I do something wrong? Why is she acting like this? Should I text again? And before you know it, you're reacting instead of thinking. That reaction is exactly where most men lose their position. They let a temporary situation dictate their behavior, and in doing so, they reveal emotional dependence. But a man who stays calm and unbothered operates differently. He doesn't rush to respond out of anxiety. He doesn't let silence shake his confidence. Instead, he pauses, observes, and maintains control over himself. That calmness sends a powerful message, not just to her, but to anyone watching, that he is grounded, secure, and not easily affected. And that kind of emotional stability is rare. It creates a presence that people naturally respect. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're not controlled by what you can't control. You understand that someone else's behavior is a reflection of them, not a measure of your worth. So instead of reacting impulsively, you stay centered. You give space where space is needed. You allow things to unfold without forcing outcomes. That level of patience shows strength because it proves you're not desperate for validation or immediate reassurance. When you maintain that composure, the dynamic shifts in your favor. Instead of you trying to figure her out, she starts trying to figure you out. Your lack of reaction creates curiosity. She may expect you to chase, to question, to show signs of frustration. But when none of that happens, it disrupts her expectations. Now, she's wondering what you're thinking, what you're doing, and why you're so unaffected. And in that shift, you regain control of the situation without saying a word. Emotional control also protects your self-respect. When you react out of anger or desperation, you often say or do things you later regret. You might over-explain, over-apologize, or even come across as needy. But when you stay calm, you move with intention. Every word you say, every action you take comes from a place of confidence rather than fear. And that consistency builds a strong image of who you are, a man who doesn't break under pressure. The truth is, anyone can stay confident when things are going well. But real strength shows when things don't go your way. When you're being ignored, tested, or uncertain, that's when your emotional discipline matters most. It's easy to react, but it's powerful to remain still. It's easy to let emotions take over, but it's rare to master them. Lean back, don't lean in, because the moment you start leaning in too hard, you lose your balance. When a woman pulls away or starts ignoring you, your natural instinct might be to close the gap, to move closer, to fix whatever feels like it's breaking. You want to reach out, ask questions, get clarity, and bring things back to how they were. But the truth is, leaning in during that moment often creates more distance, not less. It puts pressure where there should be space, and it turns your presence into something that feels heavy instead of attractive. Leaning back is not about giving up or playing games. It's about understanding timing and energy. When something pulls away, chasing it rarely brings it back. It usually pushes it further. But when you step back, when you allow space, you give the situation room to breathe. You stop forcing connection and start allowing it to happen naturally. That shift alone can completely change the dynamic between you and her. When you lean back, you also redirect your focus. Instead of analyzing her behavior, overthinking her silence, or trying to decode every small action, you bring your attention back to yourself. You invest in your own growth, your own routine, your own purpose. You spend time building a life that feels full without depending on her presence. And that energy is powerful because it shows that you are not waiting around, you are moving forward regardless of what she does. This creates a contrast that people notice. Most men lean in when they feel distance. They chase, they pursue harder, they try to prove their worth. But when you lean back, you stand out. You show that your value isn't tied to someone else's response. You show that you're comfortable with space, that you're confident enough to not force anything. And that confidence is what shifts the dynamic. It turns you from someone seeking attention into someone who naturally commands it. There's also a deeper level of respect that comes with leaning back. You respect yourself enough to not overextend. You respect your time, your energy, and your emotional stability. You're not going to exhaust yourself trying to hold on to something that isn't meeting you halfway. And that kind of self-respect sets a standard. It silently communicates that if someone wants to be part of your life, they need to show up with the same level of interest and effort. As you step back, something interesting begins to happen. The silence that once made you uncomfortable becomes your strength. You're no longer reacting to it, you're using it. You're allowing it to reveal the truth of the situation. If she comes back, it's because she chooses to, not because you pressured her into it. And if she doesn't, you've already started moving in a direction that benefits you. Silence creates curiosity, because when you remove your constant presence, you also remove the certainty someone had about you. When a woman is used to you always being there, always texting first, always checking in, your attention becomes predictable. It becomes something she expects, not something she values. But the moment you stop chasing, the moment that double pattern breaks, something shifts in her mind. Now there's a gap where your attention used to be, and that gap doesn't go unnoticed. At first, it might seem like nothing is happening. You stop reaching out, and there's just silence. No message, no reaction, no immediate change. And this is where most men fail. They panic and go back to chasing because they think their absence doesn't matter. But what they don't understand is that curiosity doesn't build instantly. It grows in space. It builds over time when expectations are disrupted and when someone can no longer predict your behavior. When you stay silent, you give her something to think about. She starts replaying interactions in her mind. She wonders why you're not reacting the way you used to. She questions if you're still interested, if you've moved on, or if something has changed. And that uncertainty is powerful. Not because you're trying to confuse her, but because you've stepped out of the role she had you in. You're no longer the one chasing, you're the one who became unavailable. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand or can't easily access. When your attention was always there, there was no mystery. But now, your silence creates a question mark. And the human mind doesn't like unanswered questions. It seeks closure, clarity, and understanding. That's where curiosity begins to grow. She may start checking her phone more often, revisiting your last conversation, or even finding small reasons to reach out just to see if you're still there. But this only works if your silence is genuine. It can't be a strategy you use for a day or two while secretly waiting for a reaction. Real silence comes from detachment, from truly focusing on your own life instead of monitoring hers. When you're not watching, not waiting, and not reacting, your energy changes. You become less predictable and more centered. And that authenticity is what makes the silence effective. There's also a level of respect that comes with this. You're not trying to force attention or demand a response. You're simply allowing your absence to speak for you. You're showing that your time and energy are valuable. And if someone isn't meeting you with the same effort, you're comfortable stepping back. That quiet confidence is what makes people take notice. Self-respect over ego games, because the moment you start trying to win by hurting someone else, you've already stepped away from your true value. When a woman ignores you, it can trigger your pride. You may feel the urge to get even, to make her feel what you felt, to show her that you can ignore her too or do something that hits her ego. But let's be clear about something. Real strength isn't about revenge. It's about restraint. It's about knowing who you are and refusing to lower yourself just to prove a point. This isn't about breaking her ego. It's about protecting your own dignity. When you chase someone who is not giving you the same energy, you slowly start compromising your self-respect. You overextend, you over-explain, and sometimes you even accept behavior that you know you shouldn't tolerate. All of that comes from a place of wanting validation. But a man who truly values himself doesn't need to beg for attention. He understands that attention given out of pressure or guilt is not real connection. It's temporary and empty. Choosing self-respect means you stop trying to control how someone else feels about you. You stop trying to prove your worth to someone who is not recognizing it. Instead, you shift your focus inward. You remind yourself that your value doesn't decrease just because someone fails to see it. And that mindset changes everything, because now your actions are no longer driven by insecurity or ego. They are driven by standards. Ego games are exhausting. They keep you stuck in a cycle of reaction, always trying to one-up the other person, always trying to gain the upper hand. But in that process, you lose your authenticity. You stop being real, and you start being strategic in a way that drains your energy. Self-respect, on the other hand, is simple. It's calm, it's steady, it doesn't need to prove anything because it already knows its worth. When you operate from self-respect, your behavior becomes consistent. You don't chase when ignored, but you also don't play games to get attention back. You simply step back with dignity. You allow people to show you who they are without interference. And if they don't meet your level, you don't argue, you don't convince, you just move forward. That kind of quiet confidence is far more powerful than any ego-driven move. There's also a deeper level of peace that comes with this. When you're not trying to win or get even, you free yourself from emotional chaos. You're no longer reacting to every small change in someone else's behavior. You're grounded, you're focused, and you're in control of yourself, which is the only thing you truly need to control. So in the end, it all comes down to this. When a woman ignores you, it's not a moment to panic, it's a moment to reveal who you really are. Are you the man who chases, reacts, and loses himself trying to gain attention? Or are you the man who stays grounded, controls his emotions, leans back, and chooses self-respect over ego? Because every move you make in that moment defines your value. You don't chase attention, you attract it. You don't react emotionally, you stay in control. You don't lean in, you step back and focus on your life. You don't break silence, you let it work in your favor. And most importantly, you don't play games, you move with dignity. That's the difference between a man who gets ignored and a man who gets respected. Remember this, anyone can be present when things are easy, but not everyone can stay strong when things get uncertain. That's where your power is built. That's where your character is revealed. So the next time she goes silent, don't lose yourself trying to be heard. Stay calm, stay focused, stay solid. Because a man who knows his worth doesn't need to chase anyone. He becomes someone worth chasing.